put this slide up here because I said, what is the smart grid? So for us, it's about this, what we call this digital superstructure. And the four areas that you see up here are the things that will enable the grid to become more intelligent. And it's not that the grid isn't intelligent today. It has some of the most sophisticated computing power in the world. It's the largest global machine. But it's how do we use communications technology to make it more efficient? Because today, there's at least a pretty significant loss of energy across transmission, aging infrastructure, and the lack of knowledge of about the grid state that you have the awareness of what. So we think about it in four categories: observability, which is saying how do we make sure that we know what's happening across the grid at any one time, real time; controllability, giving new tools and technologies to control the grid for peak load times, for demand response, to make it more automated, because right now it's primarily human interfaces making change, balancing loads. How do you create a more automated grid as we onboard renewables, as the grid becomes more sophisticated? And then finally, make it more integrated. So how do we converge some of the systems and in some ways use communications and networking to simplify some of the complexities that exist in the grid today? So I just wanted to frame for you what we think of in terms of what is this new thing called the smart grid. I won't go through the myriad of opportunities, but I think at the forefront, we're going to focus with our utility customers to understand what their pain points are. From workforce optimization, when we know that for many utilities, 40% or more of the workforce is going to retire in the next 5 to 10 years. What does that transition in workforce mean? How do we make it more productive as information technology becomes more of a part of the grid? The second one is asset management. How do utilities become more knowledgeable about the assets of the grid that may be aging and failing, and to become predictive by using new analytic tools to understand what are the assets and the state and health of the grid? So we want to focus with, number one, our utility customers to understand what are the pain points of today. How do we make the grid more reliable, resilient? How do we enter into this new era of renewables to the extent that you're going to onboard solar and wind power and biotherm and others? How do we make the grid much more resilient? So that's the focus today. We're working with the utility customers and helping to transform the grid to make it more effective, resilient, and reliable. For us, it means that we're going to have a model of collaboration. So it's working with our utility customers, working with our partners, working with government, establishing a public-private partnership to understand what's important to government, because the infrastructure is critical infrastructure, so security is top of mind. How do we make sure as more things and devices connect to the grid that it's secure, both in terms of physical security and cyber security? So that's a main focus of Cisco. But at a bigger level, that collaboration is something that we call gridonomics. It's about getting the technology right and the new parts of networking communications, the economic models that will create an ROI as we drive new things like building controls and home energy control, and then also the policy issues, which include regulation and standards. We believe that if we get those three right, we'll help to accelerate the grid, that we won't be moving with the technology and not understanding the ROI, or building something that's not standards-based that becomes a loss because it's not interoperable. We don't create the most effective model for the technology.